Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast. This is episode 104, recording on Sunday, May 8th, 2022. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And today, on a very special episode of the Game Junk Podcast, we'll be doing our first, is it our first? Maybe not, movie review for Uncharted. A movie based on a game that was my favorite game of all time. We named Uncharted 2 the best game of all time collectively. And this movie is a hybrid of many Uncharted games. Probably our favorite franchise here at the Game Junk Podcast. So we've all been dying to see the Uncharted film. I tried to see it in theaters. Lines were too long. COVID, the theaters were packed. I didn't want to risk anything. But now we can watch it in the safety of our own homes. And we're going to review it and talk about it. I think we did review Indie Game the Movie. Was that an official review? That's where I was...
Don't know if that was official.
Yeah, I don't
review.
remember. We definitely discussed it at some point. So, yeah, that's true.
I thought of that while I said it. I'm like, maybe we did review a movie before. But either way, this is going to be special nonetheless. So, Uncharted is directed by Ruben Fleischer. It stars Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, Antonio Banderas, Sophia Ali, Tati Gabrielle, and a bunch of other people. What did you guys think of Uncharted?
Wait, we're not going to have a clip and have a listen?
No clip. I edit.
Wow. Okay. Geez.
Well, I'm all thrown off now. I don't know if I can review it without a clip. I need a refresher, you know?
Sean, you know what? You always throw to other people. This is the first time you had me.
You're gonna make me go first?
Hey, I'm throwing it to Sean.
All right. I mean, I can kick it off. I don't have that much to say about it, but I liked it. I just, it's one of those situations where you kind of end up feeling like, it's this weird facsimile of a facsimile of, adventure movies. And, I think it compares favorably to something like National Treasure, maybe not as favorably to something like Indiana Jones. I think the biggest disappointment for me, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about whether they captured any elements or successfully captured any elements of Nathan Drake and Sully, which obviously has been, the thing that a lot of fans were talking about before the movie came out, and skewing younger with the casting.
Was it supposed to be the whole time? Who did they want? The guy who looks...
Nathan Fillion?
Oh, Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. It's got to be Nathan Fillion. The fact that we've been talking about this movie for 11 years is absolutely nauseating. And this is the result of those 11 years is shocking to me. Anyway, I'll let Huck go next before I absolutely tear the...
Whoa.
You're not done?
My main point and my biggest disappointment with it was I actually thought the historical
Because he doesn't have a
stuff-
mustache. That's the worst part of the movie. Sully doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah, I don't care that much about that stuff. I do think there's some stuff lacking in terms of the characters that are there in the game, and I don't know why they couldn't have brought some of that stuff across, but the historical stuff just seems so lazy. I feel like the games put more research into it, and the first game, it's all they barely did. They even mention the tie to Sir Francis Drake? Nathan Drake is a descendant of Sir Francis Drake. That's kind of the big thing with the first game. It's a great way to explain who he is, why he's pulled into this, and it's not even in the movie. It's so weird.
It is. It's mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's right at the beginning with his brother.
Yeah, with the ring.
The ring.
I know he says, "Don't forget you're a Drake," but I don't is that it?
I guess it was. Possibly.
You're fucking Drake, dude. Act like it. Well, Sean loved it. I'm not surprised. I think it's also worth mentioning. Sean has been typically apologetic towards video game adaptation films. He was a big fan of Prince of Persia.
Big fan might be a stretch, but
I think he loved Assassin's Creed, a film I never saw.
Never saw it.
Sean loved it. He absolutely loved it. And there's another one you liked too.
I mean, I like the first Tomb Raider, the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider. The reboot is kind of forgettable, but
Okay. Maybe I went a little too far. I thought
let's not get crazy.
All right. I have a feeling Huck loved this movie.
I liked it. I wouldn't say love. I thought actually I had very low expectations for Tom Holland as Drake, and I thought he did a pretty good job. I thought some of the like banter between him and I keep wanting to say Mark Wahlberg was like a little off, like not quite as good as in the games. Like I don't know if it was because this is supposed to be their first introduction, whereas in the games they kind of have rapport all the time. So maybe that's what was missing. But so that part I think was a little lacking.
I think that's a good observation, right? When you insert yourself into the relationship in the games, that banter feels much more natural. Like it's actually establishing that they've been working together for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the first game, like Elena's the outsider, and you have this kind of dynamic between the three about which they try to emulate a bit with this with Chloe and who can trust who and whatnot. But I think that does affect how terrible the banter is between them. Anyway, Huck, I'll let you continue.
The only thing I thought that like I didn't like about Tom Holland was I felt like the action-y parts as Giles. I felt like the
all right. At least his characters like are like they feel so young, and it I don't know. It's kind of off-putting.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to tell because this might be on purpose, right? They may want a younger than any of the video games Nathan Drake, and this is like the origin story before the games, even though it's like obviously taking elements from Uncharted 3 and 4 in particular.
The movie also alludes to that too in like a terrible script where what does he have to contribute here other than like he kind of memorizes historical facts. Sully asks him to join. I guess he has information Sully wants, but like at least in the games, he's done this type of thing before. It's very similar to Indiana Jones. They pulled from.
I think
a legacy to this character.
I think the real reason he's on the quest or whatever is because of his brother, not really necessarily because of what he knows. I mean, I think that was like a bonus. Even when he figures out, the first clue, Sully's kind of like, oh, didn't expect you to get that or whatever he says, like he's kind of surprised that he knew all that stuff. Like, so there was kind of some conflicting evidence because there was like in the beginning, it made it seem like the Sully character had like deeply researched him and found him out and knew exactly how he was going to act. And then when he figures out all the stuff, he's kind of surprised. Like, well, if you research this guy so much, wouldn't you know he knows a lot of this stuff? So that was kind of confusing. But back to Tom Holland's portrayal.
Well, I guess to say he's not without skills. He is a trained thief. He steals a bracelet off a woman in a bar for no reason other than she's wealthy, I guess, and so he wants to steal from her. Great guy.
Yeah, not the most sympathetic way to start with your hero. They try to
rationalize it, like, oh yeah, my dad, like I bet her dad's rich or something like that. Okay, so that means you steal people's bracelets that are embedded with diamonds. Like, okay, cool. I love this guy.
Yeah, you're so up on the up and up. But he seemed to me a little more like he almost came across as like accident prone. Rather than, like, I feel like in the games, I feel like Drake is in control and knows what he's going to do, but he also knows, like, it's probably a stupid idea to do these things. And he's, like, just taking a wild, I guess I'm going to have to climb up this train or this airplane cargo net. Like, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm doing this. That's in the game. Whereas in the Tom Holland portrayal, I feel like it's, like he's just accidentally succeeding. I don't feel like he's really in control. That's the feeling I got.
I think all of this, we're kind of talking to the point that it's his first mission or whatever is what we're getting. But that also doesn't really lend itself that well to the fact that he's a pickpocket and has all these other skills. Like, who is this person before?
Yeah, and then he can do all these crazy acrobatics around the railings and like hang on to crazy lights and like
he's pretty good in fights and can handle guns. Like, it's very strange how you're introduced to this character. And I guess overall, if I like, this movie is a complete piece of shit. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that is less authentic looking in my life. This movie is made like in 2022, and it looks like I don't know the budget. Everything looks like a green screen. Every set looks like an amusement park ride. Like, it looks terrible. Everything looks, when they put keys into things and turn these puzzles, like, it looks absolutely terrible. It is I know it's an adventure movie, but I mean, go back and look at an Indiana Jones movie, even National Treasure. Things look kind of real, and part of it is the special effects. Like, they're atrocious, and it's the lighting. The lighting, I'm not a critic of lighting in films. The lighting in this movie is absolutely awful. There's only one part of the movie that actually looks good, and maybe two. One is on the water towards the end, when they're approaching the cave at the end. Like, that looked pretty good, filmed in a real place. And then when they're going into the one rave, like the lighting coming through the
rave lighting was great. Yeah,
I thought that looked good. Other than that, this movie looks like absolute ass. It is awful. You start with this big showpiece or showcase set piece ripping off Uncharted 3 in the plane, and it, like, the physics, everything about it feels completely unrealistic. He's jumping from this obvious CG version of him is jumping from crate to crate with physics that look completely unbelievable. He's leaping like an insect. It is the worst. That opening set piece, it's weird because, like Sean said, it's a facsimile of a game. So the game kind of takes Indiana Jones as a template and amps up everything because it's a game. The whole thing is unbelievable, and you're doing it and you don't really care because video games are shitty versions of movies. As long as it's fun, you don't care. Then you take that facsimile of a shitty movie, and then by copying it, you turn it even into a shittier movie by trying to maintain what the game has, where the logical decision is to go the opposite direction. Bring it down. Make it more realistic. That's what you should be doing. Taking the idea of Drake and the characters and being, okay, let's embed this in a reality where the game clearly had to do the opposite because it's not as much fun. You have to shoot more stuff. You have to do more things in the games. Let's tone it down. And it does the opposite. It's got, like, I don't mind the idea of, like, the two ships attached to helicopters, but that's an interesting idea, but it's not necessarily exciting in execution. There's one moment that's not bad with that, but then it's just callbacks to Indiana Jones constantly and to the game. Like, a moment at the end of the movie that's ripping off the end of The Last Crusade, let's say. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
No? Involving the treasure? When he has to choose between two things?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Like, just throw the bag in the helicopter. The door's right behind. It's like this totally scripted, symbolic moment that is completely meaningless in the context. Like, there's no reason for it. It's awful. It's one of the worst scripts I've ever seen. The fact that
I think it's supposed to be establishing their friendship.
I know it. Yeah, and it makes no sense. Just okay. Throw the bag here. Grab your hand. Good to go.
Hey, that gold is heavy, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's why you just throw it into the open door right beside you, which you can see from the shot when it cuts away from the helicopter. Anyway, sorry for the spoiler. If you weren't aware, this movie was going to be a complete hunk of trash based on the trailer, which I was aware.
In that giant rant you just did you call Indiana Jones shit? Did I hear that correctly?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something about a shitty movie.
This is like
being
maybe a shitty
turned into a game, implying Indiana Jones's shit turning into a game. Anyways,
no. This was the other analogy. This entire movie is the swinging on vines sequence of the Crystal Skull. Like, totally CG, completely unbelievable. You watch it, it looks like green screen garbage, and you're like, how did Steven Spielberg think this was good? And this whole movie is a bunch of set pieces that are that. The worst thing in Indiana Jones is extrapolated into 2 hours. The plot is ridiculous. The one-liners are the worst. Humor is dead. It's like the most ridiculous, like lame one-liners that someone in high school could write. Like, you had 10 years to write this script, and this is the best you could do. Like, it's not like they rushed it together. It's been worked on over and over and over again. I want to know what the David O. Russell version of this was, the first director attached to this movie.
I mean, there's been so many versions of it. It would be interesting to know, but
I absolutely hated this movie.
I thought the chemistry between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg was okay. I agree the writing isn't the best. I liked the actress who played Chloe quite a bit. I wish she was in it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I liked the pirate ship stuff. Like, I know it does look very CG, and I had the same thought about the cargo plane sequence. I mean, obviously they open with that, they come back to it later. That's like a big focus of the movie. And it is weird to compare it to the game because, you know, it feels like, yes, this is in the game, and you can compare the two and be like, okay, I know this, but, you know, and it is ridiculous in the game, but it's fun because you're doing it, and, you know, you kind of let it go. But yeah, I agree. In the movie, you would think maybe you want to ground it a little bit more, pull it back just a little bit. Like, that's what a movie can bring, is like, okay, now I'm watching like a live action person do this, make it look less CG instead of just being like, well, it's a video game. Everyone knows the video game's CG, so what the hell? Just keep it as crazy.
Am I alone in the plane sequence and him jumping? First of all, there's that.
No,
and then
weird.
He's like kicking people and then apologizing when he's killing them, essentially. It's like, well, they're trying to rip you off of it. They're trying to kill you. Like, I don't think you need to like apologize in that scenario. Like, how about you just, it's this weird, we want him to be Spider-Man. It's like the directors and producers like, just be Spider-Man. People like you when you're Spider-Man. Just be that same character. How about you come up with a new character for your movie that has already been established in something else, and at least be true to that in some respect. You have all of these things to draw from this series, and you don't appropriately take the only thing of value from that series, which is the theme. They use it like two kind of, there's a tribute moment where they use it, and then a part at the end, and it's like a different instrumentation of the theme. Like, that's the only thing that's movie ready from that series, other than the characters, is the music, and they barely use it.
The music pissed me off. Like, they didn't use the themes at all.
They use it twice. It's like shitty versions of the theme. Oh, that's the
only time.
One thing.
The only time they really used it is after the second post-credit sequence, right? Like, it really kicks in there, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird."
Second post-credit sequence?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean, not to spoil anything, but did you guys wonder why Mark Wahlberg had a mustache in the trailer and he didn't have one in the movie?
Oh, that's the one I saw.
I saw that one. That's the only post-credit sequence.
Oh, well, I guess the other one's like, I guess mid-credit sequence or like right after credits start, but that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
What was that one?
What was it? There was something else right after. I can't remember what it was now.
Well, I mean, that post. So I think while you're thinking about that, I think also what kind of hurts the movie is that, like, if I had not played any of the games, I think this movie would have been probably pretty good. But I would definitely rank, National Treasure, even National Treasure 2 above this movie. I just feel like they introduced Drake, and I'm like, okay, this is going pretty good. You kind of get the backstory with his brother and stuff. And then it just feels like once he kind of teams up with Sully after the bar, the plot just goes into like super overdrive, and they don't ever really like slow down to really explain anything or flesh out the characters, except for, like Frank was saying, crappy one-liners. And I mean, the action is okay. Like, I agree with Frank, the like plane is kind of ridiculous. Even that, like, the auction scene where he's swinging from the lights, like, you could have done so much more interesting things with that than him just basically doing some jump and kicks and then jumping on those lights and hanging there. I mean, he didn't really do anything.
I'm not even like attacking the subtlety. Like, could he actually steal that cross in an auction setting like that? Like, well, we're well beyond that in terms of like, it's completely ridiculous. And I mean, I would take National Treasure 2 over this any day of the week. I longed for National Treasure and the new series coming out on Disney Plus after watching this.
Well, I guess the other thing is, and this kind of ties into, the fact that it's a younger Nathan Drake. It just feels like they're setting things up, like they're saving things for sequels. You know what I mean? And like you said, Huck, there's not really any character stuff other than that initial introduction where you learn about him and his brother and everything. And then the rest of it is just like pure, like, we want to get this gold. And that's where, like, Frank, you're talking about this moment at the end where he has to choose and stuff. Like, it felt so tacked on in terms of like, okay, we need it to feel meaningful in some way, what they've just gone through. He has to learn something from all this, because really they just want gold, as far as I can tell. But isn't that Drake to some degree in the first game? Like, isn't the thing Fame and Fortune, kid? And that's... Yeah, I guess that's part of it. But they do bring this idea of like actually wanting to learn about these ancient civilizations, and like making the discovery is a big deal to them, but it doesn't feel that way. A little bit, I guess, but it doesn't feel that much an important part of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like Drake also cares about the artifacts themselves, like discovering the artifacts and, claiming them. I guess he doesn't want to just like steal the gold and sell it off.
No, he just wants to steal from civilians in bars.
Yeah. No, I mean in the games. Sorry, in the games. In the games, he doesn't want it.
Fair enough. Well, in the first one, I mean, that's the arc over the games. I know what Sean's saying about like saving stuff, but at the same time, it feels like they went through all 4 games and we're like, well, let's pull all the best ideas from every one of those games or something like that. And the brother in part 4, like, it's like, rather than just taking, okay, let's do Uncharted, the first game or the second game, and then go further with it in other ones. It's like, we're like, no, these games are not that good story-wise, which I partially agree with and disagree with, depending on which game you're looking at. And they said, okay, we're going to turn it into something else. So let's get all of the game stuff that people are going to want out of the way now.
So since we are talking about this on Game Junk, maybe we should talk like what was from what game and what stuff was invented for the movie. Because I don't even 100% know myself. Like, I know the cargo plane, and I think there's an auction. Am I wrong?
Auction's part 4. Plane
Cargo
is part
plane's 3.
Cargo plane's 3.
And you could argue that the whole beach island is part 4 as well.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so it's mostly 3 and 4. I don't think there's much from 1 and 2. And I think the Antonio Banderas character is new, right? Like, I don't think he's from any of the games.
Yeah, he was great.
And
that was the other part. His whole backstory was really interesting, and then it just kind of like ended like abruptly. How like his family had all this like wealth, and he had this like argument with his father and stuff. I thought that was kind of neat. I thought they were going to go somewhere with that, and then it just kind of like... Yeah,
because he has his hideout, and I thought this was going to be a location of a fight or something like that with cover, it almost looked like. Like when you have
the excavation of the town.
Like they took a whole piece out of somewhere, and it's like, oh, there's going to be some kind of showdown here where it's basically the exact same feeling I had behind the stage in Last of Us Part 2, where I'm like... You can see, okay, this is going to be a fight area. But it didn't happen in the movie. But other than that, the characters are just all from...
Where are the propane tanks set up ready to be exploded?
Where's the bricks and stuff like that? I don't know. I absolutely hated this movie. It's an insult to the game. It's an insult to its viewers. It's an insult to fans of the games. It's like generic algorithm garbage where the only humor comes from the cat. Like all of a sudden, like in the teaser at the end, Sully needs to bring his cat with him everywhere he goes. Like, what the fuck is that? That is like elementary school level humor writing. Like, what if he brings his cat with him?
I thought there was, there's room for lighthearted action adventure movies that are not overly convoluted in the Hollywood landscape right now. And I felt like it filled a void to some degree. I think if you do hold it up to the games and you are a big fan of the games and, you you take issues with some of that stuff and you're not ready for, how they change some stuff, maybe you'd be really pissed off and disappointed. But I guess I was just like a little bit more, it was a little bit better than I expected. Yeah, a little bit more forgiving.
And then does this explain one of the henchmen is that Scottish guy? Like, why is he working security at the auction and discovering Tom Holland if he works? Like, why is he going into the back rooms for things? It makes no sense. It's just like,
she told him to keep an eye on him, right?
Maybe. Okay. Oh, good.
Was the lead bad girl with the white hair, was she in the games?
I don't think so.
No, her name is Braddock, and I don't think there's any character she connects to.
Okay, I was trying to remember, and I think that was the other part that was hard for me is like, while I'm watching this, I'm like trying to think of like, is this part of the games? Which game is this? Like, I'm thinking of it in that lens, which is not the right way to watch a movie, and it seemed like I was distracted a lot of time while I was watching it because I was trying to like compare with the games so much. And I think if I had not played the games at all, maybe I would have enjoyed it more because I just would have taken it for what it was, had no preconceived notions of like who Drake is, who Marky Mark is, like all these people, right? Like, I don't know. I think Chloe was by far the best character of all the cast, and I think she matched up with her game character the best. Like, I feel like maybe that actress actually like played the games or something. Like,
I agree. I think she was the best performer in the movie by far. The character was probably the best, but like I was also distracted watching it. I was thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner, what I'm going to do tomorrow. I need to take a shit and finish this thing while I'm taking a shit. It is so bad. I can't even believe, like, the Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was bad, but not that bad. Like, this movie should have gotten...
I thought it was 40 by the critics. I thought it was rotten.
Yeah, 30s or 40s, I think.
40 on the nose, yeah. 90 by the audience,
So we got, like, speaking of great performances in the movie, we got to talk about the Nolan North cameo.
Probably one of the best parts of the movie.
Frank?
I mean, it's...
You didn't even notice it. He was asleep.
I didn't notice it.
I mean, I don't know, like, I did not know what he looked like, but...
He looks like Nathan Fillion.
A little bit. But you can tell from that moment, because he gets like a couple extra seconds and a couple extra lines than you would expect from just some random guy. You're like, okay, wait, he's got to be Nolan North or something.
They play the theme for the first time when he shows up.
Did they?
And
okay, I didn't notice.
And he sounds exactly like
I do like
Drake,
an island party version of...
Oh, okay. Did not notice that part.
Wow. Now that's embarrassing.
What can I say? Like I said, I didn't know it was him until I was like, wait a minute, this guy's got a few more lines that he should normally have. But yeah, I guess
Who's
the
only this hack on the beach? Get him out of the movie.
Exactly.
Anytime they do a puzzle, essentially, in the movie, where they like press in things and turn keys, like, they're really dumb. These characters are stupid. Like the turning clockwise versus not. It's like, okay, maybe you could have a bit of a process figuring this out. Like, some deductive reasoning rather than a lame attempt at humor. Like, these are the dumbest characters ever, the way they approach everything. I was like, I don't want these characters to succeed. They're morons, they're thieves, they're pieces of shit. I want them to fail miserably. And I want this movie franchise to be dead on arrival.
Well, you're not going to get that because it did do well.
This movie
mostly
is
because of... Well, I don't think they've announced that, but I think it's done pretty good. And I think mostly it's because of Tom Holland. I mean, that's the whole thing. If you're mad that, like, why did they go, with a younger Nathan Drake, and why did they just basically have Tom Holland play Peter Parker? It's because that is what people wanted to see, and that's probably why it made money. So
that's why my wife wanted to see it. It's got Tom Holland in it. He's so handsome, and what word she use? I don't know, manly or something. I don't know, whatever word she used.
Manly, wow, okay.
Wait, what was Chivalrous is what she said. Chivalrous.
Chivalry. Wow.
Pretty good one.
I'm starting to turn now too. I think maybe I like him more.
So one little moment that I did like that I thought was kind of clever was when they were kind of doing the above ground, below ground thing. And that was one of my favorite parts of the movie because it, was actually kind of like figuring out treasure stuff and puzzles. But I like when the place for the second keyhole is in a Papa John's. Like the idea that something that was
I thought Frank would love it.
I mean, it's obviously product placement, but like the fact that something that was, made, hundreds of years ago or whatever suddenly is now inside a chain restaurant kind of could happen. It's kind of funny.
I don't disagree. I like the idea, but it just leads you to believe like, well, then how did no one discover all these huge urns in some cavernous place behind it if they're surveying it and
maybe
building new things? It raised more questions than it, let's put it that way.
That's like in Uncharted 4 where they circle the island and then land on the tiny beach, and then at the end of going through all the caves, they come out into a giant harbor full of ships that they apparently did not see during their survey circle of the island on the first time around. But, hey, it's just a game.
Yep. Just one comment too, Frank, like you mentioned how green screeny the movie looks.
Yes.
I mean, I did think that, but it wasn't like, I don't know. There was something about it that looked green screeny, but I didn't think everything looked CG, aside from some of the action sequences. And I looked it up, and I guess they actually shot, like particularly all the Philippine stuff, they shot a bunch of footage and then like composited it with the actor stuff afterwards. So it's
it was to be clear, it was a half and half thing for me. I said, a lot of it looked like CG. The rest of it looked like sets. Like I could still see the paint. It was fresh on the sets. Like they were throwing this shit together so quickly. It was just completely inauthentic looking. The ships at the end felt like brand new. They did not feel like pirate ships that have been abandoned for 200 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Like there's no dust. Even like in terms of the green screen stuff, when they're in the plane or on the cargo, like their hair is barely moving. Or skydiving. Have you seen someone skydive? You can't have conversations when you're skydiving. Like the wind, like it felt like nothing. Like we weren't even watching anything. It was like they were sitting in a backyard talking about this, filming this.
Well, they had a nice fan on their face, blowing their clothes around.
Yeah, you don't want to mess their hair up too much. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's not going to look chivalrous with bad hair.
That's right.
I think that's my favorite thing about this movie. I'm going to start using the adjective chivalrous more. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I dig it. But, the naughty... It is, as Sean said, this is Game Junk. So there is a Naughty Dog sticker in a treasure chest when they open it up. I absolutely loathed their version of flying from one place to another. That's like a 3D Indiana Jones map. Like it looked like absolute garbage. And I think they only used it once. Like why come up with that? Like just the whole point of Indiana Jones is it always bridges the gap between changing locations. I don't think they did that in this.
I think there were two different transitions. Yeah. But I didn't loathe it, but
the second one might have come when I was debating what I'm going to eat more the next day. I'm trying to think. I think we hit the two redeeming things.
Well, I guess the post-credit or pre-post-credit scene, whatever one we're calling, that definitely hinted that the next movie, if they make it, or if they spin it off of that end credit sequence, it will be more Uncharted 1-like from what it seemed.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I'd never thought about this before, but I don't know if there's casting rumors or if Elena is going to be involved in this series, but there's an obvious choice for Elena. Like, so obvious, everyone on the internet might be saying it.
Sorry, Frank, is it Elena or Elena?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's Elena.
I think it's Elena.
Yeah,
I'm sure Frank has played this game 1,000 times and still doesn't know the characters. All right, the obvious choice.
Yeah, who's
Let's
the
guess.
obvious choice? Okay.
She's basically female Tom Hardy these days, and she looks exactly like that character.
Charlize Theron?
No.
Female Tom Hardy.
In terms of Hollywood hotness, they seem to be in everything.
It's going to be Jennifer Lawrence?
Florence Pugh.
I was going to say Vera Farmiga, but she's a little probably old now for that role.
Like, it will be, they'll throw a bunch of money at her. She is the perfect Elena. Or Elena, if you... No? You don't think...
Yeah, no, I think that would work.
Yes, I think you're right. They will throw money at her. And she'll probably take that money.
So that post-credit scene too, like you were mentioning, Huck, how it potentially seems like it's leading to Uncharted 1. They do mention, I think, Roman, right? I think the guy says he works for Roman, which is like the villain of the first game, I think.
Well, and they also had the Nazi stuff, which I believe is only in the first game. Because of the sub.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
I forgot. She played a character named Yelena. Or Yelena.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, did she play in Elena? But right, from Black Widow, right?
She's the perfect Elena. Make it happen. I will go see Uncharted 2 if she's in it.
There you go. You got Frank's money. But yeah, I don't know. Ruben Fleischer, this guy is...
He's a turd manufacturer.
Well, I think he's done some okay stuff. I still think the first Zombieland is good.
Nope,
but
it's not.
Venom, but I don't know if I think it's good, but it obviously was a success. Yeah, I don't know. But he just doesn't really have a style. You know, he's just a strange to look at his group of movies he's done, like Gangster Squad. 30 Minutes or Less I liked, but a lot of people...
I remember liking it, and then I tried to watch it semi-recently, like a couple years ago, and it was not going well.
Yeah?
No.
Still got to check out Zombieland Double Tap one of these days.
I mean, he is the definition of a jobber. Like,
I would say he didn't really start his career that way, but currently that's where he's at.
He is... For Sony, too. He's Blue Haze all the way.
Yeah, big time.
He is the Blue Haze director. He'll be announced as the director for God of War pretty soon, would be my guess.
Could happen.
Get ready. You heard it here first. All right, are we done talking about this movie? Like, it's fucking nauseating even remembering how bad it is.
That's about all I have to say, yeah.
One thing I just remembered, which I found kind of frustrating when I was watching it, is all of the, like, traps that they just, like, purely by chance avoid. Like, they don't take any precautions at all. It's just like the knives coming out that Sully just happens to have the bag up at just the right spot.
That's the clockwise counterclockwise thing.
And then the other one where they're running through a hall and then like some sort of spike traps come out or something like that. It's like,
yeah, like Tom Holland is with Chloe,
he's like, don't go that way. Like,
yeah,
that's it. That's all. Like, that's it. Wrong way. Sorry. These death traps just tell you not to go this way. He just and they just happen to trigger like 5 feet too early. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yep.
Small nitpick.
I don't think it's that small. I think if we wanted to get into small nitpicks, I would need to rewatch it, and I could go about 3 hours. I don't care to do that. Let's give our star ratings for Uncharted.
3 stars for me. Best video game movie ever made.
Sean, I feel like you've said that about another movie that I forgot.
Well, I think I said it about Prince of Persia once upon a time.
Yeah, at one point. I think there's been one since that you've said that for.
I was trying to think. Is there another? I don't remember.
I mean, I guess you could say Mortal Kombat 1. The original Mortal Kombat movie is pretty damn good from what I remember.
I like the recent Mortal Kombat movie.
I have not seen that yet. I will give it a 3 stars as well.
I've already logged this film on Letterboxd as 1 star, and it feels a little generous.
All right. I mean, like, so just to cap off the discussion, though, it always comes up, but like, is there a hope in hell that we are ever going to see a great video game adaptation on screen?
Yes. I know what it's going to be, too.
Metal Gear Solid?
Binary Domain? They're
Sean
making
got
Binary
it.
Domain?
Metal Gear Solid will be the first great video game film.
Who's directing that again? The guy who did Kong Skull Island? I
I
think.
don't know.
Although I agree, I like the original Tomb Raider movie as well. Even the second one. They were
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are both pretty good.
Because, like, with Metal Gear, with stealth stuff, I feel like it's more interesting in film form than in game form to some degree. You know what I mean? In terms of excitement or how you portray it. I think there's a big opportunity there where, like, an action game like Uncharted, it's way more fulfilling to play a game version of that if the stories, like, don't matter. Where I think there's some cool stuff they can do with Metal Gear, and I think Oscar Isaac is very good casting. And
Has that been announced? That movie's been announced?
I think they've just announced that Oscar Isaac is playing Solid Snake.
Okay, so they are making the movie though. That's like confirmed.
I don't think it's filming's
been,
begun or anything.
it's been in the works for a long time, but yeah, Jordan Voight Roberts is the current director. Not sure if there's a release date yet.
I mean, if we don't know, there's been rumors that Sony is going to buy Kojima. They could be waiting to make this an official Blue Haze production and put Fleischer on it. So I don't want to speak too soon.
Should we start Blue Haze Production Studio just to be purchased by Sony?
It's a good idea.
Incorporate?
At least register the domain name, you know?
I think we might have to. Hang on. Bluehaze.com. Whoop, .co. .co is available. .com. Oh,
Domain is available.
available. We've got an opportunity here, boys.
We really should buy it.
Cut that out of the podcast.
I would like to do it just to have a PlayStation news site. Call it the Blue Haze.
That'd be cool. What about
Fucking cool.
one other upcoming video game movie? What are we saying about Eli Roth's Borderlands movie?
Oh yeah, that's like done filming and everything, right?
Yeah, that might be the next big one coming.
I assume it's going to be another huge pile of shit, but
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a little bit curious. I don't have a ton of, but I don't know Borderlands very well, so I just have no attachment to it, which maybe is a good thing. I don't know.
yeah, I think it could benefit the film. But
And then the Super Mario Brothers movie got delayed till next year, which was a recent announcement, but I don't know about that one.
Also,
it might never happen.
Just to chime in here, gangrene.com for sale. Scarletfever.com available.
Available.
Well, it says site cannot be reached, which I'm assuming is no one owns it.
I don't know, man. Those are prime domains. Like, why wouldn't anybody register?
We may have to chip in some donations from the listeners and lock these babies
How much
in.
is it? Can we buy it right now?
I don't know. Let's ask GoDaddy. This is live.
I'll buy it.
Live Game Junk.
I mean, they're probably like $10, right, or $15.
Bluehaze.ca. We don't want .ca. That's shit. Bluehaze.com. $64,000.
For real?
premium.
Wait, what? Somebody does own that one?
I don't know. It's a premium website.
Yeah, somebody
name, apparently.
owns that. Yeah.
But we could get Bluehaze.ca for $3. Might have to skimp on that one.
But did you?
no one
Okay, we
wants
can
that.
always do Blue Haze because Sony owns Blu-ray technology. So what about BLU Haze? That's how I spell Blue Haze.
Okay. Bluehaze.com, slightly less premium, only $3,000.
Ugh. All right.
Bluehaze.pro, $7. Oh, Here we go. Blue-haze.com, $3. That may be a compromise we have to make.
Is there a dot game? Like
I'm sure there is. Oh, wait. Thebluehaze.com, $3. That may be an option.
All right, I'm moving on. The idea is
Too many options.
We're dead. Okay, let's get into a little bit of news. Just touch on a bit of news. What's the actual thing? Is it IDOS games or it's just?
I think it's Square Enix West.
Square Enix West, which is Tomb Raider, Legacy of Kain, I think was one of them.
Yeah.
And Deus Ex.
Yeah, so it's Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal are the studios. And the catalog of IPs include Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and more than 50 back catalog games.
So that was purchased by Embracer Group for $300 million, which seems like an absolute steal based on how much people are paying for other things. I can't believe Sony or Microsoft did not buy this. Like this, I want to buy it. We got to buy it. I would have been in on the bidding. I had no idea. I would have done whatever it takes to scrape the funds for that. Like those are good games, especially Tomb Raider. Like that's worth that much money.
They just announced too that they are working on the fourth one, right?
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 5, I think.
I couldn't believe it. These prices don't make any sense to me at all. And Embracer Group, they own a bunch of video game companies, and they're always buying up smaller ones. I don't remember the order of operations here, but they have like THQ Nordic and some other. They're IPs.
Huge now.
Yeah,
they have like 79 studios or something like that.
Yeah, when the news happened, I went to Wikipedia and I was looking at what they own, and there's a ton of it, but I don't think there's that many great games, to be honest. To me, now the most valuable IP is Tomb Raider. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about Square Enix and where this deal even came from, but like from what I've read, like a lot of people say, yeah, that seems like a really good deal for what they got. And it seems like Square Enix just really wanted to get out of the North American
totally
market. Like, and you know, some of those studios had recent games that were kind of disappointments, like the Marvel's Avengers was Crystal Dynamics, and Guardians of the Galaxy was Eidos Montreal, which apparently did not hit their sales targets. So
that one seems weird because it's a pretty good game. And people love Guardians of the Galaxy. That game is a mystery to me how it did so poorly.
Yeah, and a lot of people just kind of said maybe the targets were way beyond what they should have been, which is possible. I don't know exactly what the numbers were, but
yeah, I feel like their targets would have been Spider-Man for PlayStation or higher
because it's on multiple consoles. Weren't they disappointed with Tomb Raider and it sold like 7 million copies or something like that? Like it seemed like the number was really high, and then they were still disappointed. So it's hard to say what target is. And
I agree. Like I feel like Tomb Raider is underappreciated, especially the recent trilogy. Those are 3 really good games. Like I love all 3 of those games, and they deserve more love.
Just been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider recently. Never finished 2 or haven't even started 3. So
same. I don't think I ever beat 2 or 3.
I think 2 is the worst one of the 3, to be honest, for me.
Yeah.
Just because of those really wide, when it goes to the big areas where it's almost an open world map, that map is kind of broken and it's not that focused design wise, but
yeah, it does hurt the flow of the game a little bit. But
anyway, that's a steal. They'll do well with that, I believe. But let's get into what we played. All I've played is I finally beat Nobody Saves the World again today. Finished it again. Still love it. Started it back up again. New Game Plus. Going for that platinum.
Wow.
It is so good. It's this weird game where I love it and I'm almost on autopilot, like just because I played it so much, and I still keep playing it. Like there's this weird kind of, as Huck would like to say, carrot on a stick thing where I just keep going. I have to like take myself away from the game, even though I've put a lot of time into it and kind of doing the same stuff.
Have you beat it on both PlayStation and Xbox?
I beat it on Xbox. Now I'm playing the PlayStation 4 version, and then maybe PlayStation 5 version, unless our friends at Drinkbox want to have a save, porting, and auto pop.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Huck, that's your new niche for Equilibrium Systems. We will convert your games to auto pop trophies.
Maybe
Huge.
I'll have to come up with some sort of reverse auto pop, PS5 to PS4.
Oh, if you can do that, you're gonna.
Maybe if you play a game on PS5 that you've platinumed on PS4, it takes the platinum away. Maybe that.
I don't think that would go over well.
Probably not.
I would be in favor of that. Like, I don't like that I have these dirty trophies. I know people think I do. I would be fine if you just had to earn them, but you know, it's got to be consistent for everyone. You can't just, like, if it's out there and it can be done, people are going to do it. So they did not think about this enough before they did these kind of systems. It's a problem.
Definitely a problem.
Yep.
Okay, I can go next. So I tried out Trek to Yomi, which
Oh, yeah.
dropped this past week. It's on Game Pass, and this is the black and white kind of samurai game, and it's interesting. Like it kind of is, it's like a 2D game when you get into combat. But then outside of combat, there's some 3D exploration. And, I like that they've committed to the black and white look and feel. And I think, I kind of like the story. I mean, it's fairly simple, but you're kind of this samurai and your master, your village gets invaded and you're trying to help your master out and eventually kind of end up on your own trying to avenge what's just happened. And the thing that I'm kind of struggling with a bit is the combat feels, I don't want to say clunky, but it feels kind of button mashy, I guess. Like it feels like you can, like they introduce this, you can block and counter, but then you can also just like, you can do one block and then just button mash. And sometimes you just like walk up to a guy and like 1, 2, 3, he's dead. And it feels very random. Like it does not feel all that strategic. So I don't know if that's going to improve. Like if it feels easy, at least the first chapter, which is what I played. And so I don't know if it's going to get more difficult. Like I know at the beginning of the second chapter, you start having people coming at you from both sides. And so you kind of have to like hit somebody, flip to the other side and kind of like manage that, which is a little bit more tricky. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something about the combat feels weirdly unsatisfying, I guess I would say. But, I hear it's a pretty short game, so I'll probably stick with it, see where it goes.
It is a little strange because everything I saw with that game, I would assume the combat is the strength of the game, especially considering what it's competing with at this point. Like,
Yeah.
what's the game I can't think of right now that just came out?
Sifu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I tried a game called Contradiction, which is like a live action video adventure game. And it was a pretty simple, straightforward adventure game with the occasional bit of trying to, I guess their big selling line is that you have to kind of like read the people's expressions and figure out who's lying.
Contradiction, Spot the Liar.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So kind of like
So
LA
it's-
Noir kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like LA Noir, except it's live action videos, but the acting is not very good. I'm kind of struggling to get over it, especially the main detective, who is you, I guess. It's not very enjoyable. It seems kind of like a little over the top, I guess, and I'm just not really digging it just yet. I might try it one more time, see if I can get into it, but I only had to do one sort of like contradiction so far, and like spot the lie kind of thing, and it was pretty straightforward and easy. So I'm not totally sold on it. I played one other short game, or not short game. I played an early access game which I picked up called The Lighthouse, which is supposed to be like a psychological thriller type game, and actually the opening prologue had me intrigued. It was really good. It pulled on some heartstrings. I found it interesting the way they set up the story and introduce the main character that you play as. But then when you get to past the prologue to the first chapter or whatever, it was like a lot of walking around, not really, is kind of clunky controls, and I got stuck and had absolutely no idea what to do. I had to like find a key, and I had absolutely no idea where it could be. And the play area is quite large, and I'm like, I'm not going to do a pixel hunt to find this key. So I will probably wait until that game is out of early access to revisit it.
These developers only have 2 games, and they're both not out yet. It's The Lighthouse and then a Lighthouse VR escape room.
Okay. Yeah, I actually don't remember why I bought it. I think it was like kind of branded as kind of like a detective-y game, and so it was on sale like super cheap one time, so I just grabbed it, probably for just a couple bucks or whatever. But I can pass off to someone else. I played one more thing.
Sean?
The other thing I played, I tried a bit of Norco, which I know we talked about when, the trailers originally dropped for this at one of the game events. I forget what it was.
I think we played the demo too, didn't we? Or maybe it was just me.
Maybe. Yeah, I think you played the demo. I don't think I played it, but yeah. So this is on Game Pass for PC now, and it's a point-and-click adventure, but it's got a really interesting style. And I don't know that I've played fully enough to really get a sense of what the game has to offer. But I guess the first thing that came to mind is
Seems like Snatcher to me. Seems like inspired by Snatcher.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like kind of this dystopian future, but it's set in New Orleans, and so it's got this kind of different vibe. Like it's not super high
It
tech.
looks like the graphic style reminds me of Blasphemous.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, like, in terms of the kind of the storytelling and stuff, it reminded me a little bit of Disco Elysium in the sense that it's very poetic, and like, the narrator will kind of tell you some stuff, and then it's like you have an option to like you sit and ponder this for a minute, or you get up and go to the window, and it's like, well, I don't know, what does it matter? Like you have these choices, and I really don't know if they matter or if they're just kind of like, a cool, have a cool little flair to them or what. But I did like the visuals quite a bit, and the story was intriguing. I feel like I've just been looking around a house, and I don't even know what the first kind of puzzles are really yet. So it's kind of hard to say, but it just seems very interesting and unique. And I've been hearing really good things about it too. So I'll probably, give that some more time in the near future.
It is a very nice looking game. I dig the art style.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just briefly say the new season of Halo Infinite came out. I tried that out this week, and a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah, I've heard some bad things.
It's like they really didn't add much. Like 2 maps and a couple of game modes. It seems like after a half a year later that this is all they have is kind of shocking to me. I still like it because I like playing multiplayer just in general, but it does feel pretty lackluster compared to other seasons of shooters. And like it says you can quit a game in this last man standing. Last Spartan standing, and that's their battle royale, like a mini battle royale game type. And if you quit, you lose all your progress in your challenges, even though it explicitly tells you won't lose progress. So that's a pretty bad bug. And while I'm talking about bugs and Xbox and multiplayer games, like the quick resume multiplayer never works. If I quick resume Halo, it's disconnected. It doesn't get me back in. I have to completely close the app and then start it up again just to play multiplayer. If you're going to have this big feature that you say that's why you're better than PlayStation, we have quick resume and they don't, at least have it work on all your games. Like, it doesn't even work. You cannot do it with multiplayer games. So fuck you.
Yeah, I think anything that's kind of network enabled,
which is like 50% of games nowadays.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
Speaking of that, there was a big outage this weekend. Did you guys hear about that? Because
No.
I tried to start up an Xbox game, I think Saturday night, and it kept saying, the person who purchased this needs to sign in. And I was like, what the heck? And I looked, I'm signed in. I'm like, what's going on? Tried a few other games, Game Pass or games that I purchased digitally. Neither of them were working. And yeah, I guess it was just a big outage, which is like, that's pretty bad when you just can't even play a game. Like, you can't start a game because their network is down.
Downright embarrassing.
Yeah.
So the last thing I played was Rogue Legacy 2. I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to try it out anymore.
Yeah, I think I was going to play it. I haven't played it yet, so.
I've been dabbling.
Okay. All right, I also been dabbling. I did maybe 4 or 5 runs, maybe 6. Unlocked a few things here and there. Haven't really got it yet. I mean, I'm assuming the progress is pretty similar to the old games where you have to kind of like beat a few bosses and then you kind of get to the head honcho boss. But I haven't seen any bosses yet. All I've seen is those like tomes that you have, like you enter and then you kind of have these like mini challenge rooms, and when you complete them, then you unlock a new ability, which I think is a cool twist on like just getting a new ability. You actually have to do something for it. I think that works pretty well. And overall, I think I like all of the new enemies I've seen, and obviously there's some enemies that are from the original game that are still there that still work well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm liking. There's a weird feature they added where when you unlock a new class by paying for it, you can immediately switch to that character. I don't know how I feel about that because I just spent all this time choosing my stats. I haven't really figured out if that just changes my class or does that give me a fresh new person with all new
I think it's all
features?
New stuff because the class, like the special ability for the class is different, and like
so that's what I thought.
So.
So I've kind of been hesitant to try that feature out. I don't know really why it's there. It doesn't really seem to fit with the rest of the style of the game. It's like a weird choice, but I haven't really got into finding many recipes or whatever they call them, crafting things. So I haven't been purchasing any new equipment or any spells or anything. So I really haven't. I barely scratched the surface, but overall the game plays really well. I'm really liking how it plays. I think there's a new. I think it was a Valkyrie I played that has more like a longer. What do they call them? Like a halberd, whatever you call those things.
Pole arm, something like that.
Pole arm, yeah, something like that, which I think works pretty well. And it has some subtle differences with kind of like your recovery after using it that kind of slows you down that you have to adapt to. So I think there's like some really nuanced gameplay choices in how the characters control, which I'm really digging so far.
See, I'm kind of the opposite on that with roguelikes, and that was my biggest problem with Rogue Legacy, where depending on what abilities you picked, like the game plays completely differently, and like it's almost a totally different way of playing the game. So I'm never that incentivized unless I'm just going to always pick the same things every time to do that. I think the one in the first game was the dash, and unless
and
you
double
use
jump.
or double jump. Unless you're using it all the time, you don't even think to use it when you have it. And it feels like a weird thing. That's why I really like Scourgebringer, because the gun is what's changing. How you fire the gun is always the same. Like your controller mappings don't really change. It's just how you play within that mapping is kind of the same. And any roguelike that drastically alters how you play, it's just too much for me sometimes. And it actually de-incentivizes me from experimenting, because I'm like, I'm probably going to die because I'm not playing with dodge all the time.
So, is it different in this game, Sean? Because I unlocked the boost or the dash, but I don't recall seeing a screen where I have to choose to turn that on or not. Do you just, when you unlock them through those tomes, do you just get them permanently?
I think you just get them permanently. I've only gotten one of the tomes so far, and it seems like that's part of the progression, because basically every time I play now, I end up, there's this other tome that I'm working through, and I always get it, and it's like, that's the next thing it wants me to do. Mm-hmm. So
that feels like a direct response to my criticism with the first game.
Yeah, maybe.
Making certain core abilities like part of the controls and not optional. But I had the same problem with the Dead Cells and even Hades to some degree. Like the ranged weapons versus close ones, it's like it's almost learning a different game. And at least Hades gives you that choice at the beginning. And I guess Dead Cells to some degree does that too. But it's like...
Well, Rogue Legacy kind of does it with the classes.
Yeah, I'm going to keep... maybe for this week or whatever I'm going to do, I'm always going to pick the ranged weapon and get good at that, rather than within a run drastically changing how that works. I'm not a fan of.
That's true. They did add... And that's another thing. They did add ranged weapons. Now you can be an archer, which is...
I was gonna ask what... Like, there's a lot of classes, so I wasn't sure how many of those were in the original game.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I feel like
I've unlocked like 6 or 7 now.
In the first Rogue Legacy, to my recollection.
Yeah, there were. There's like Barbarian and Knight.
But that was just like, that just tweaks your stats at the beginning, right? Like, didn't it just like kind of change your...
You're bigger, and it does tweak mainly your stats, but your like character is a different shape usually and stuff as well, from what I recall.
Yeah, but this is pretty different though, because you've got like Ranger, Barbarian, Valkyrie, Fighter, Mage. I think there's like Architect. I don't know. There's a few weird ones I haven't unlocked yet, but yeah, the one thing I'm not sure about, like, there's so much stuff to unlock in that castle that like every time I go through, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just unlock whatever I can afford, but like, should I be focusing on one thing? And like, I've been trying out all the different classes, and yeah, like Frank said, like I'm not getting good at any of them, so it's not really helping me right now. So I think I just need to focus on one.
I mean, Returnal suffered from similar problems. It's a roguelike thing where they have to design it for people who are going to play it forever, and it tends to affect people who only play it. Like, if you're not going to get into the game, it can be a barrier to entry for sure. And Returnal was frustrating until I decided I'm going to play this game exclusively for a while.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have anything?
Nope. That's it.
Okay. Well, that's the first, or maybe our only video game movie review until Uncharted 2.
Till Borderlands comes out.
Starring Florence Pugh. I mean, I guess it's going to be more dependent on video game news than video game movies, and when we're starved for stuff. Any
do retro review movies.
I feel like there's a big one that I've never seen, but I never even saw the Tomb Raider movie that came out a few years ago, nor do I care to. But thanks for listening or watching us on youtube.com/GameJunk. Discord links are there. Still picking up there. I was posting pics of my Horizon Lego tall neck on there, which I managed to secure. Huge pickup this weekend. So check us out. Hopefully something to talk about for next week, but I feel like it's going to be pretty barren until those E3 announcement weeks, or the replacement for E3. So we'll see what's up. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.